Today, we're looking at Noodler's Green. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Noodler's Green is a green ink. Surprises everywhere. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples, I put the ink into a different pen for a day, I then put it into a Nimicine Singularity with a fine nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we look at the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography. And I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And we see this very nice, very light blue on the bottom that brings its way up. We see hints of yellow, and then we see a nice dark green all the way across the top. The one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And what we see here is that blue is much more settled in place at the bottom. It's really staying there, and not a lot is moving up. We still see those hints of the yellow. They are a little more pronounced in this chromatography, and that dark green all the way across the top. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, this ink handles itself incredibly well. It's like it didn't even notice it, which is strange because I know it's not a permanent ink, but I feel safe using it in a note-taking situation. The water highlighter. The water removed everything except that blue that we saw on the bottom of the second chromatography. That very light blue is still very much there. It's not moving, even though I can see the dots of the Rhodia dot pad. Pen Flush is easily removing this entirely from the paper. It's all that you should need to get this out of your pen. We see plenty of white of the paper coming through. 1/3 bleach solution, although it's not necessary, will completely obliterate this as it did on the paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Noodler's Green has a viscosity of 1.76, making this a wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I've found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Noodler's Green has an average dry time of 15 seconds, making it normal. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form, and to keep my writing sample consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. You ready? Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, but look at that shading. It is gorgeous. Now, Noodler's ink does good green inks. I love their greens. I love their browns. Noodler's is my favorite for greens and browns. It just is. They do a fantastic job. And here we go. Look at it. The extra fine, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, crazy shading all over the place. It just vomited shade everywhere. Just, it's, oh my God. Oh my God. Light, dark, super dark, light, super dark, light, super dark, light, super dark. Just, wow, look at this. Just nice. So nice. 9 seconds to dry. The medium, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, shading all over, and it is so gorgeous. The whole way, I don't even, every word, every kind. So very nice. Look at dog. Dog is a great example. The D is light. The join of the D to O and the left side of O is dark, gets light again. Right side of G gets dark again. Just like that all over the place, and gorgeous. 12 seconds to dry. The scrubby shows us plenty of color variation, and we got it. The smear test says you could likely recover it, and I'm going to believe them. I need some water for this because I tell you what, this is an exciting ink. Tomoe River. No bleeding. Yes, we get ghosting. The 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade. It's actually, to me, kind of a boring green in the 1.1. The color is much nicer in the extra fine. It's a lighter tone. It's much nicer. It's a true green with the extra fine. The extra fine had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, 16 seconds to dry, and along comes that medium, says you don't get to get away without shading, man. I don't care if it is Tomoe River. I'm going to shade on this stuff. And the medium gave us no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and it shaded like crazy. That means this ink is thick enough that in its 27 seconds to dry, this really dark K did not spread down through the whole quick. The really dark right side of H to E didn't spread back into all of the. The P didn't spread into the M and the S. Nice. So nice. 27 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and medium shows no color variation, but the medium lied. Now the smear test says you likely can't recover it, and I'm gonna believe it. So, Rhodia, no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Very little shading to see with the 1.1. The extra fine steps up to the plate with no feather, spread, halo, sheen, and lots of shading all the way. Now, I find I really like this one with a dry pen. But then again, I find that I either like my pens to be gushers and really put the ink down when it's a color I like, or dry and really bring out that shading when that ink has nice shading to offer. This one does better, I think, with a lighter pen because you get some crazy color variation with a drier pen. The shading in this extra fine, it's gorgeous. 10 seconds to dry, so manageable. The medium had no feather, spread, halo, sheen, lovely shading all the way through, all of it. Oh, it's like quick right there, has like a lemongrass kind of tone, and then on the right side, it's like the greens on a golf course. In one word, just wow, 14 seconds. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show us color variation. We get color variation. The smear test says you could likely recover it. And what happens to this green ink if I test it on yellow paper? So I did. Yellow Rhodia, in fact. It gave us no bleeding and no ghosting, which is what we expect there. What happens to the tone? Well, the 1.1 got darker, and while I didn't like it here, I actually like it over here. The extra fine got lighter, and the medium got lighter. It affected it entirely, and in a really good way. The 1.1, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, or shade, but it's a beautiful dark, rich green. Lighter tone with the extra fine, no feather, spread, halo, sheen. The shading went crazy because it became noticeably lighter than we had with the white. With that noticeably lighter, we get more of the shading come through. 10 seconds to dry. Medium, no feather, spread, halo, sheen. Beautiful shading all the way through this. Beautiful, absolutely, just wow, gorgeous. 14 seconds to dry. The extra fine and the medium scrubby both show us show us color variation. We do get plenty of color variation. The smear test says you could likely recover it, and I believe you could. So I wanted to look at this on white lines paper. What happens there? Well, the 1.1 bled. The extra fine and the medium didn't bleed. They certainly seeped in quite deep. They have a lot of show through, but I actually don't think this is completely unusable. For me, I wouldn't use the back side. Some people might find this fine. The show through that you're getting on camera is way more than in person. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. We don't get any shading with this paper. The extra fine, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade on this paper, and 5 seconds to dry. And then along comes the medium to save the day with no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and watch out for that shade because, man, it's going to give you some nice shading here. Look at what's going on with Quick. Starts dark, gets light, gets super dark again. The starts light, gets super dark. Beautiful. Brown starts dark, gets light in the middle, little darker on the end. Great. And 6 seconds to dry. You get shading and fast drying. And it's not horrible. Look at that. It's not horrible as a performance. I'll deal with that. I'll deal with the fact that I can't write on both sides of the paper. The extra fine and the medium scrubby both show us no color variation, and the medium lied. You liar. The smear test says you could likely recover, and I'm going to believe it. Look at the Apica paper, the Apica CD notebooks. I love this paper. It performs so well. No bleeding, no ghosting. This feels so nice. Feels nice. The 1.1, no feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen, and no shade here. I'm sorry, Apica. You don't get the 1.1 shading. Extra fine, no feather, spread, halo, sheen, but yes, we get shading. And nice shading, and it's really gradual. On other papers with this, we had a stark jump from lights to darks and lights to darks. This is very gradual in its getting darker. It's very nice in what we're getting here. 7 seconds to dry, but back to that jumping in shading on the medium. No feather, no spread, no halo, no sheen. Great shade all the way over. Light C, very dark K. Dark B, light R-O-W, dark N. Beautiful. Dark X. Nice. 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby of both show us not a lot of color variation, and they lied because we got plenty of color variation, and the smear test says you could likely recover it, and that is all that I have for the writing sample. Instead of finding inks that look like Noodler's green, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page, and I really wanted a nice red magenta. I chose Colorverse Lights on Ceres. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Noodler's green? Well, Noodler's green inks tend to shade very well, and this one is no exception. In fact, the only problem I have with this ink is that I enjoy Noodler's Army so much. Inks with very basic names are often incredibly overlooked. Something just called blue or just called orange doesn't get as much love as something called Flaming Ink Reviewer. And you see someone running around bursting into flames and you're like, look at all the different colors. It doesn't get the same as the fire names, as the sunset names. It doesn't get the same as, the blues don't get the same attention because they're called blue. The only ink that seems to get color, or that tends to get attention with its color name, is black. But everything else, even pink, flamingo, or pinky. But pink is a perfectly good name. Don't avoid these inks or an ink like this one called green, because there's got to be something more interesting. This is a great green ink. I was rambly there. Thanks for watching.